Hey, so this is going to be a short video on why we get attracted to narcissists. Now, I can't tell you why you as an individual might be consistently attracted to narcissists. I can advise you there's certain things you might want to look at. You might want to look at your same gender parent's interaction with the opposite gender parent. So if you're a lady, look at how your mother interacted with your father. And if you're a man, you want to look at how your father interacted with your mother and see if you've imprinted anything there in terms of how you understand a loving relationship should be or shouldn't be, or what's normal. And you might have internalized the idea of narcissistic abuse as being what love is, as being what is normal in a quote-unquote loving relationship. That's one way to look at it. Another thing is to ask, what need in me is being fulfilled by narcissistic abuse? Are you addicted to self-pity? Are you addicted to being ostracized? Are you addicted to being abused? Does it make you feel good to feel righteous indignation? Does it make you feel good to feel outraged? Whatever you consistently think, you get addicted to. Whatever you consistently feel, you get addicted to. And I know in my own life, if I can give myself as an example that people can use as a jump-off point, I have definitely been addicted to. I don't mean addicted in like, oh, this feels great, this is awesome, what a good feeling, like a weird, dirty, perverse, masochistic high with the gag ball in and the nipples being tweaked whilst you're being spanked by Satan, and saying no daddy, no. Just me then. So sorry. That can be a factor. Like if you're addicted to self-pity, that could be a problem. If you're addicted to being ostracized or betrayed or something, that could be a problem. I remember actually having my own father, who was an out and out. I've done a lot of videos about narcissistic mothers, and anybody would think that my mum would be a narcissist, but it's not. It's actually my dad that was the major narcissist in that family unit, the most abusive person in that family unit. And he actually said to me about an abusive relationship that I had with a girlfriend who wasn't very nice to me in my 20s. He said, you're getting something out of this. You're getting he didn't phrase it the way I'm about to phrase it. He said, you're getting the rush or the satisfaction of saying, you see, I told you she was crazy. Do you see what she's done now? And it was, when he said that to me, it was actually hard for me to deny it. The other thing is that you should look for traits of narcissism in yourself, and this is where I've gone with a lot with clients recently. So, well, if you've attracted narcissists, are you doing that because of traits of narcissism within yourself? If I have a friend list that is full of people who are semi-famous or special or different or outstanding or whatever it is in some fucking way, then and then I whinge that, oh, all the fucking people I know and all my girlfriends are narcissists, well then maybe if I was to be coaching myself as a third person, I'd say, well, maybe that's you that's done that. Maybe you've put yourself in those situations. Why would you, eyes open, always go for the girl that every guy wants to be with? What's that about? What are you trying to prove? What are you trying to make up for? Is there something you need to prove to other people? Are you trying to prove something to yourself? Blah, 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 blah. Anything that is sick or neurotic usually relates back to an unfulfilled need or an unexpressed intent or something that wasn't allowed to express itself properly that's become perverted. Which doesn't necessarily mean sexually, it's just that I'm obsessed with sex, so it always comes back to that. It always comes back to the gag ball and the nipple clamps. Oh dear, the drugs are really kicking in now. So yeah, why do we consistently attract narcissists? Probably because you get off on it, probably because you get something out of it. For me, I just, the way I've handled every addiction in my life, I have quite an extreme personality. Feast, famine, extremes of I like to take things to the extreme. So my way of handling any addiction has usually been to go cold turkey in a hyper dramatic way and just stop. And I don't mean drama as in going, oh, I've gone cold turkey now, darlings. I mean drama as in not phasing it out or doing. I like to go, oh, the big gesture, the big symbolic gesture. And for me, the most healing thing that I found, or the most, what was it, healing? the most sane-inducing thing, that's not a sentence that makes sense, the most sanity-inducing thing I did for the last couple of years was to actually just say, okay, I'll go celibate. I'll go halibut. And I will stop, doing stuff with people, because it was there was a consistent unconscious pattern and I couldn't stop myself. And it was like, well, if I describe to you the nature of the women I've been with, they've all had daddy issues. They've all had, there's always been not always, but frequently been a racial element there. And I only realised this fucking recently, just how weirdly coincidental these women just kept coming into my life who, say if they were black, but they had a black father and a white mother, they would hate black men. If they were Chinese and they had a Chinese mother and in one case a Chinese mother and a Chinese father, in both cases of those girlfriends, they hated Chinese men. There was always an aberrant reaction to I think that's right, to the father. There was, I hate my dad, and if he was black, then I hate black men, and if he was Chinese, I hate Chinese men, or whatever it was. And there were other things that were strangely, all these people had all flirted with fame, that either been dating like musicians, or they'd done some films or some modelling work, something like that, and consistently over and over. Now where I'm from, as I've said before on these videos, I'm from the northwest of England, from Birkenhead. It's very white. It's very, like, Liverpool is quite white, but you go across the Mersey to the Wirral, it's very white. I was consistently finding usually mixed race girls, and I would be going out with them, and they would have these daddy issues, and there would also be the racial issue there as well. So I guess over the years that gave me kind of like a different perspective on racial issues versus cultural issues and that kind of thing. So that's a slightly different issue. But yeah, the narcissistic element of that is these girls were special. I was describing to a client of mine, a black client of mine, who had a white girlfriend, he was describing about bringing the white girlfriend home, and I said, was there any narcissistic, I asked the question, was there any narcissistic pleasure to that, in bringing back a girl who represents perhaps a precious resource into that cultural environment, going, haha, see what I have returned with after being on my travels and hunting. Because I know that there was for me, and looking back I have to admit that, there was that element there for me, is that I bring these girls back that were, that horrible word, adjective, exotic, that's a really seedy, horrible word, but in context, that is how they would be described by my tribe, by my family. So I was bringing girls from different tribes into my tribe, and another element of another narcissistic element of that is that it was hard. My namesake, the man that I was named after, is obviously a chap called Richard. He is a great grandfather of mine, but he was alive for quite a few years of my life. Grandpa Dick, and he had deliberately married into the family a very, very difficult woman who apparently had all the traits of very strong narcissistic personality disorder on my mother's side. This is sort of trickled down. And I remember my mum telling me a story. She actually asked him, why did you marry her? He was a very intelligent guy, ex-parachute regiment officer, who was the headmaster of a local school. So he was like pretty decorated war hero. He was a real character. I loved him as a kid. He was a real character. He only had one arm because he'd been hit by a mortar in a slit trench, and the mortar hadn't gone off, and it had hit him in the head. So his perspective had gone, so he had to wear an eye patch, and he had one arm. So I was like, he's cool. He's like the coolest person in my family. But apparently the answer he gave my mother when asked, why would you do that? Why would you marry somebody so difficult? And he said, I married her because she was difficult. So here's a guy who liked a challenge. And I've wondered that as well with some people. Are some people code breakers? You know, I've looked recently at other guys who I know who deliberately go into foreign cultures that are very foreign. That's just rude. Shh now. they've got fireworks, it's nearly New Year's Eve, they're playing with their little fireworks. Yeah, do some people deliberately go into foreign cultures to break the code, to learn how to do it, to rise to that challenge, to be the social chameleon, or whatever it is? And I also think that is something that I do and still do to this day. And I'm not saying that makes me a narcissistic abuser, but it's a form of narcissism, because I can look in the mirror of my own life and say, oh, I'm not like everybody else. I'm not like everybody I grew up with. I didn't want to be, I grew up in a village where most of my family lived within a half-a-mile walk of each other. And the people that I just described to you, going back generations, you can, like from one road, you can look out the back garden of one road and you can see where my grandpa Dick used to live, and they all basically live around somewhere. It's called the Bevington Oval. I don't think I'm giving away too much information there. It's where they shot Chariots at the film Chariots of Fire. But all the houses you can locate, like based on, there's a whole bloodline and a whole family story there that's based on an area that is like a couple of miles square, and that drove me crazy. Like the idea of that, I just found it awful to be surrounded by people who look like me, talk like me, dress like me, everybody thinking the same things, doing the same things, saying the same things. When I go back, I enjoy it for a couple of weeks to a month, and then I start to go nuts. And that is a form of narcissism. It's like, I must be different. Why can't you just be a fucking regular, normal person? So you've got to acknowledge these things in yourself. And don't conflate, narcissistic abuse with somebody just being a total dickhead and just being an arsehole. Some people are just violent and abusive. So if you're saying, why am I addicted to somebody who's violent and abusive and likes drinking and then coming home and joking me? There's a lady who particularly asked me this question, and I said, I'll answer my video. It's more likely to be rooted in a childhood trauma and the idea of love being violent and expressed through physical violence. I mean, that's a whole other topic for another day. It's a very, very complicated issue. You've got to look at something called trauma bonding. You've also got to look at the thrill. This is a very taboo subject, the thrill of being in a dangerous, annoying, it's like a bomb going off. You'd think I was in Beirut. I'm really not. The thrill of being in that kind of relationship, and it's an addiction, but as I said at the beginning of the video, it's not a fun addiction where you go, yay, this is really good and it feels good. It's actually a nasty, twisted, masochistic addiction with the gag ball and the nipple clamps and being spanked by saying no, daddy, no. I'm not going to stop. You don't have to watch these videos, they're free. But the more you watch, the more I'm getting inside your head. Dangerous, man. Okay, I'll leave you with that delicious image at the end of that video, and okay, thank you very much for your time and your attention, and I'll speak to you again soon.